Welcome to My Turn with Divyesh Doshi. Today we have with us the second generation of Della Group, Pearl, Farhan, Natalia.
And for dad, the concept of 24 hours was very important. So he started identifying that if I get into a resort, what are the things that I want? I want a 24-hour experience hub. So we created this 24-hour hub, and that had 24-hour swimming pool, 24-hour fine dining restaurant, because that is something that kind of really excited him. So he always says this, at Della, tandoors never stop. It's always on a cyclical move.
So, for me, marketing has always come naturally. As you're aware, marketing has been my educational background as well. It's something that I feel is always the need of every business, and for us, it works because of six diverse businesses.
I think the task, how we've sort of come to equilibrium is we each bring our own specialty to the problem. So it's never two people doing directly the same thing.
I would like to share one thing that, like in Amazon, I was reading Jeff Bezos' book, on how his Amazon team actually has a veto power in every department. So even if the CEO appoints a particular person, they have a Ben setter veto player. If not Della, what would you be doing in terms of career?
I love this question.
Right now, I really wish I pursued art.
Okay.
So maybe I'd be painting.
Okay. Welcome to My Turn with Divyesh Doshi. So our guests for today are the second generation of Della Group, Pearl Mystery, Farhan Mystery, and Natalia Mystery. The three of them, they are the second generation in their family business and they have big shoes to fill, and they are leading different aspects of their business, how young leaders have their own management styles. And this one's for anyone who's looking to start their own business or is already managing an established business, or for all those second generation entrepreneurs. So please watch it till the end. This is the Della story. Pearl, Farhan, Natalia, how are you guys?
We're good, excited. I think it's the first of many because our podcast is a sibling trio as well. So quite excited about this one.
So that's what exactly I wanted this to be, like a fun podcast with the future of Della.
Lovely. So excitement all around and can't wait to get started.
And Natalia is a dear friend, and it's good to have you on my show, Natalia.
Thanks, Devi. Pleasure is ours.
Yeah, so before we get into second generation leadership and how you all have taken over the business and you all are the face of the company today. So, Farhan, can you tell me what Della is about and how did the Della story start?
Well, Della's story started about 28 years ago. Well, Dad's always believed in being a first generation entrepreneur. He's always believed in identifying a vacuum in any industry or any business that he might be in, and what's the best he can do to achieve that. So it started all the way back when he started the pest control business himself, moved into contracting, spoke about how we established the first turnkey complete solution supply and turnkey projects in the industry, right to 2008 when Della Adventure and Resorts came in and we pivoted towards hospitality and second homes, albeit the latest avatar of the group today. So Della has always been about finding opportunity in every adversity and also identifying those market missing gaps and doing the best you can and innovating particular industries.
Paul, for anyone watching this episode, if he wants to start his own resort, Della Resorts being one of the pioneers in the luxury hospitality segment. So, we want to understand how do you build a resort and how does a successful resort operate?
So Devesh, we've all been, part of it growing up, watching Della Resorts come into play. What's exciting is I'll give you a little backstory. It all started out with passion. So I think the first thing to answer for anyone out there who's wanting to venture into something, you really have to see whether it aligns with your passion, because any business that you set up is going to, really require that more than anything else. So we got a couple of villa plots and started developing real estate second homes.
Okay.
With that, Dad was always extremely passionate about adventure sports. And he always said that, you see families across Europe and America, or even Australia for that matter, who have a sport that they take on and they kind of play and enjoy together. But we don't want to go on the sporty route. We want to take it down the adventure route where you want to try archery, you want to go dirt biking, you want to enjoy zorbing. So we set up the adventure park. With the adventure park, people coming, footfalls, everyone said that, oh, it would have been so nice if, you could stay. And then even the villas were like, oh, if it was nice if there were a few more rooms. So we started off with a boutique hotel, which was Camp Della, which is what the first thing that came across. 2022 tents on the side of the valley, which was stunning. It was as Lonavala, as picturesque in the hills that it could get. And one thing led to the other. I think the learning out there for dad was he didn't come from the hospitality background. He came from a business mindset. So a good hospitality number or ARR or should work or that should work was less on the focal point. It was more from an experience perspective. If I go somewhere, what is it that I expect in a good holiday? And for dad, the concept of 24 hours was very important. So he started identifying that if I get into a resort, what are the things that I want? I want a 24-hour experience hub. So yes, the adventure park is there, activities is there, a gorgeous room, views, service, all of that is there. But what is not there is what he wanted to focus on. So we created this 24-hour hub, and that had, 24-hour swimming pool, 24-hour fine dining restaurant, because that is something that kind of really excited him. So, he always says this, at Della, tandoors never stop. It's always on a cyclical move. But while you do all of this, you also have to understand that yes, you bring specialization across different teams, but the only way you can run something successfully is being involved in it and understanding if it's making logical sense or not just because the industry says it has to be done like this. So many people told him this 24-hour concept will not work, 24-hour spa will not work, 24-hour restaurant will not work, no, no, no. And he always tried to look at it as a business standpoint. And then with that grew the whole idea of creating the first experiential hospitality brand. So you focus less on just a resort and you start focusing overall on the brand and the experiences that you're creating.
And he had a set vision and he knew what he was doing. Like he wanted to give people something
Yes.
They've
that
never
they
experienced
never
before.
experienced.
And that set vision goes along with all the learnings in the way. So Della didn't come across with, overnight as a 50-acre property. It was a slow, gradual development, learning, and addition of things that we saw from the best places across the world.
Yes.
Added his own little Jimmy Mystery flair to how he would like this to turn around and happen. And with that grew the team, grew the expectations and understanding. A lot of the people, so Della Resorts also came around during recession. So one of the reasons to pivot into hospitality was because he wanted to retain his entire project and interior team. So a lot of the
Okay.
people who came from that background of sales and other things hadn't sold a single room night. And his thing was very clear. You open the newspaper and whichever companies you see, you go and invite them for a corporate event and you tell them the story and why will they not come. So all the approaches were very different. So whenever you're starting a business, whether it's a resort or other things, I think you have to come down to what is it that you're doing differently, what are your strengths, who are the people that you're bringing to complement, and how involved or not you're going to be. Yes, you can be an operator, yes, you can be a developer and set it up, but you have to understand those roles very clearly, because if you're going to be someone who wants to run and operate it, you need to understand that a lot of the decision, the thinking, the creativity either comes from you or you have the ability to find the talent that brings it to you.
Absolutely.
And that is
And
how
this has happened over time. Like all the pieces have beautifully come
Yeah.
into place. And like
Yeah.
it wasn't that he planned the entire
Yeah.
50 acre, but it's like whatever was the need of the hour, he
Yeah.
kept delivering. And that is why today we have this wonderful resort.
Yeah, it's 6 resorts. They're
Okay.
all 6 different theme based resorts that have come together. The idea was again, right? If you love a property, you love a brand, you want to keep going again and experiencing it. And all of us, I don't know, with us, we like to try new things, but maybe it's something you've experienced with your family. If they feel comfortable and
Yes.
happy in one place, they want to go back.
Yes.
But now, why would someone come back if they've already stayed in that same room, done the same thing? So he made sure every resort that came across had a very different theme. So you had an adventure park resort, which was overlooking the adventure park. So a little bit like living in a Disneyland. You had the Garden Villa Resort, which was just completely focused around gardens and different gardens and private gardens and infinity pools on top of your villas. You had something like the Luxury Resort, which gave you a very Balinese feel by the water body.
Yes.
And then you had Data, which was a military themed resort. So everything was a very different component that came together. theme based, experience based, and then to kind of start off. And you have to, as a brand, and that's the other thing with the resort as well. I think somewhere what he got lucky with was that room to grow and expand and not
Yes.
decide everything on day one, because that allowed him to innovate with new restaurants, that allowed him to even put up something like our latest, which is Della Sky Garden. You have your dining in the sky, which is a concept that's been around, and
Yes.
we've got our own twist to it with an actual fine dine restaurant, bar, entertainment, 150 feet up in the air.
Luxury in everything.
Luxury in everything and
Yes.
experience in
Yes.
everything. Because now, if somebody's visited and they're back in Della Resorts, he wants them to have something
Something new.
every
New
time.
every
Some reason to
Yeah,
come again.
yeah.
So you spoke about resorts, villas, luxury products, data,
Adventure.
DLC,
Yeah.
adventure.
Manufacturing.
How are you guys managing all this and still coming on a podcast on a Saturday? How are you guys doing it, Natalia?
I think the best part about what we do is that we get to balance out. It's never just monotonous, it's never one business. We get to do a bit of everything and all of nothing at the end of the day. It's fun because we always get to work together. We always come up with newer ways to keep the audience engaged. We come up with new experiences for the guests. And I think no 2 days of ours will ever be the same.
Absolutely. So, like, as you guys know, like, even I joined my father's business 6 years ago from a lawyer moving to construction and real estate, and my two sisters also joined the business. So, we had a tough time in splitting the roles and what each one is handling. So, I'll ask this straight to you, like, what are each one of you handling?
So, Devesh, it's never a standard answer, right? Like every couple of months, something new comes up, and you have to be agile when it's your own organization. I think where I've fallen is always taking on what's the need of the hour. So, whatever's the latest project and how you move into it. That being said, I'm inherently always obsessed with design. So, the way you were a lawyer before, in my, maybe parallel universe, somewhere I did go ahead and get that architecture degree and, doing it, but I always loved
But
design.
you've actually got a master's degree in business, right?
Business, yes, yeah.
I do research on
But I love design, so no matter what, I always come back navigating to it.
Farhan, what are you handling at this giant brand?
So, Devesh, it's funny, but I see my role, almost like the Apple car team within Apple. So within the larger ecosystem, there's always a team working on special projects, working on special things. What I handle, luckily enough, what I've been empowered to do is handle innovation and product development. So over the last year or thereabouts, I've been working on developing products for the DLP vertical that we spoke about, be it paints, be it high performance doors, luxury safes, and also within the organization itself, any uh, need for innovation, any need for kind of product development. That's always where I find myself into.
I would love to know, Natalia, like you are the CMO, as I've heard, the Chief Marketing Officer of Della. So is that all you're looking at, or what are you doing at Della?
So, for me, marketing has always come naturally. As you're aware, marketing has been my educational background as well. It's something that I feel is always the need of every business. And for us, it works because the 6 diverse businesses, I get to, have my own share of fun with it because marketing is not limited. It's not a very, narrow field. And for me, anything that's got to do with branding, with brand collaborations, PR, sales, that is something that comes very naturally, and that's something that's exciting and keeps me going, be it in DLP or resorts or adventure.
And with an already established brand, which already has a message or a value in the market, when you open separate verticals, you always have to be conscious about that the messaging across all has to be same. Like,
Yeah.
like for me, like if I hear Della, it's about luxury. So if you're entering into any segment, I would want that consistency as a consumer. So I'm sure a conscious effort is being made to give that consistency to the
It's
audience.
very clear that at the end of the day, communication has to be matching with our brand values. Whoever hears of Della across any of the businesses should know what the brand stands for. And at the end of the day, design and luxury is what we do, is what we always want to offer to, be it the clients, be it our guests at the resorts. And it has to be very clear, very simple, and a very true meaning to the communication that goes out.
Absolutely. So, like, after listening to all this, it's very easy for the others to say that, oh, you all are into a set business, you have a platform. आपको क्या है? आपको तो dad की कुर्सी पे जाके बैठना है. Well, I feel that there is added pressure because you have a legacy to maintain. If you start
Yeah.
off, it is your baby, but like you are already taking
Yeah.
over something that's established.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, Devesh, because I remember, starting off, I always dealt with a little sense of, martyr complex. And this is something that, my GMAT coach put into my head when he was just hearing about it one day. And he was like, what is this need to strive and struggle and do things? And I'm like, because I don't want people to feel like I've got what I've got easily and I'm
Yes.
taking it for granted. And he was like, no, you need to understand. And this is something I tell all the students who are like second generation that come to me, that you've been given a platform or a pedestal. You're only going to be judged if you don't take it up further from here on.
Absolutely.
There is no need to say, I'm again going to start from rock bottom and again I'm going to build up so I have credibility. He was like, the credibility comes from wherever you're left off and where you go ahead from there. So I think it takes some amount of time. When you start young, I was probably 18 or 19 when I joined. There were people out there who had almost half the years of experience that my age was, right? So you cannot even start comparing how it is and how you navigate those things. But I feel each one has their journey. I thought mine was unique to myself till I saw Natalia joining in and then Farhan, and seeing how each one navigated and took on things and what worked for them.
You had the potential to lead and you are leading, but
Yeah.
what was the response of your team members? Because sometimes, like, as the director, even I feel that there are people in the organization who are since 25 years, and
Yeah.
now why will they suddenly report to me or listen to me?
Yeah.
And so
You
how do you deal with such a thing, and how do you ensure that you remind them that we all are working for the
Correct.
same goal?
So, Devesh, I actually had 3 different cycles, and in each cycle, it worked differently. So, there was a Pearl that joined in while she was still in college,
Okay.
right? The same naive one who, in the very first semester of exams, got so stressed that she was only working that I had no time to study or prepare. So, one day I just didn't show up to work. And I was like, oh, I have my exams, and and then Dad was like, that's not how it works. All of us have commitments, everybody comes to do a job. If you are not able to make it, it's your duty to inform your team, to
Fair.
inform people, to do a temporary handover. Just because you are not there, the company is not going to stop. I then left for a year for my master, so a little over a year. That's the second phase that you come back. Now that's a little bit of a pressuring phase, because now they think that you've done your masters and
पढ़ाई हो गई है.
now
Like,
you'll,
it's
you'll
done.
just
Yeah.
you'll just run wonders. It doesn't work like that. So that was a stage with a lot of expectation, because now you can no longer say I'm learning and I'm shadowing and I'm being there. Now it's all about delivery. So I think that was the stage where you had to now start getting into a leadership role. But also a lot hadn't changed in that year, right? You've actually studied, you've not worked somewhere else and come. So you have to find your footing and balance in how you kind of got into that. And at that point, what helps is the confidence in being able to know what you're doing. So that again gives you time. And if you do it, I'll tell you one thing, Devesh, to answer your question. If you do it humbly and out of a good place, and you work much, much harder than the other people in your team, they will respect you. And then it's no longer, oh, he's the boss's son, so that's why we have to listen to him. Because if you don't give anyone a reason to point a finger at you or question you, because of all the things you've done correctly, it works. And that's what I realized.
Yeah, and I feel if you prove yourself in that domain, then
Yeah.
even the team members, even though they've been there for 20, 25 years, they do give that respect.
And if you're taking a decision, and just there's a very small thing, right? The decision is still yours, but you just stop, you pause, you turn around, look at everybody and say, what do you think? Are we all good with it? Do we have a better way? You will still call the shot, but you make people in your team feel like they're heard and valued. Now, that is as you're starting or not, if they're older or younger or not, I just think is a practice that's really nice, because then people stop feeling like it's just you're calling the shots, but they also have a say in it. And over time, they start feeling comfortable to like voice it out. So I don't think at that point, then, you feel like, oh, I'm just coming and doing things. You're actually, doing it, but more as a team player.
So, like, you spoke about calling the shots, so it's easy, like, it's easier. I'll use the word easy here when it's with the team members. But Farhan, like, when it's calling shots, when there is a conflict between the three of you. So So how do you all deal with conflicts, like when like each one of you has a strong opinion that we should take this particular decision? Pearl says A, you say B, Natalia says C. So how do you all have you all figured out a formula or a strategy to deal with such situations?
Interesting dynamic always, especially when 2 3 people are working on the same project, on the same assignment. I think the task, how we've sort of come to a equilibrium is we uh, each bring our own specialty to the problem. So it's never two people doing directly the same thing. So it might be on a project, Pearl might be the design lead for it. So in fact, this is just something we did a few months back, which worked very well. She was the design lead. It was clearly in charge in terms of manufacturing, in terms of production. That's where I came in and took in the lead. So even for our teams down the line, it's very clear the roles and responsibilities, even of management, who's handling what division. So there's no scope of overlap. And anything that came to design, there was a blanket thing that you go to Pearl. Anything that came to manufacturing was blanket thing that come to Farhan. And amongst ourselves, when there was a disagreement, I think you, like Pearl mentioned earlier, you be humble enough to hear the other person. Being siblings, that is a skill I think that took us a couple of years to develop. That it's not brother sister Pearl or brother sister
Yeah.
Natalia. It is now we are in a professional environment. If she's talking with a certain experience, be humble enough to listen to her, and she at the same time must also listen to me. It's not her younger brother. It is someone who's working, who's delivering, who has his own opinions and perspectives, and she also does listen to them. So I
Yeah.
think it takes some teething problem, it takes some time, but once you reach that stage of maturity, it does
You
get a
made
lot
two
better.
interesting points. One is that you should have role clarity, like how you said that, okay, if she's looking after design, she calls the shots there. If I'm looking after the innovation part, I'll call it here. And if still there is something, and the second thing is listen to the other point of
Yes.
view, because like that happens with us. I'm happy that you all have developed that skill, but till today I'm facing this issue that sometimes in those fights you forget that it is not the
Sister.
brother sister fighting.
It's hard to
arguing.
separate the two,
Yeah,
definitely.
it is hard to separate the two, and then
You're
like
not the only one.
yeah,
Let
and
Don't
Natalia
just say
say,
that.
and yeah,
I will
Natalia, you
give
don't
you,
want to
I
take
will
those
give you
fights
the
home. You don't want to
insight.
take those fights home.
Yeah, that's the biggest downside, in a way. But I feel like we've made it very clear that what happens at work remains at work, and once we go home, we're back to being
But this is easier said than
siblings.
done. I'm
No,
jealous
I
of
mean,
you guys if
just
you all have
let
actually
me
done
do,
it.
be
you
honest.
Yeah,
do.
in
Let
front
me,
of camera, you're saying, yeah, yeah, no
I have
conflict.
no
It's a right
problem
thing to
being
Yeah.
do.
honest.
No,
I'll
no.
give you a little insights into it. So the first thing is role clarity and listening to each other and all works very well when things are hunky dory. The minute stress kicks in, someone cracks under pressure, and that's when you tend to blame the ones you feel you can get away with, and that's your siblings.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that is number
Wow.
one.
Girls accepted in front of the camera.
You do not have you do not have, the energy or the guts to kind of pick on someone else and just be like, you've done this and blah blah blah. But your siblings you can because of the comfort level. Unfortunately, that's something that happens from home, right? You do
Yes.
something, oh, sneaky, and you just kind of get into a little squabble. All of this happens when you're stressed. When things are going fine, it's
Yeah.
okay.
So the challenge that we face in business, I feel it is so difficult to find the right team,
Yeah.
to find good people.
Correct.
Like you have 6 businesses. Like everyone must be thinking that, 6 business may from these MBA colleges you just hire and they're all set in autopilot mode. But getting the right people to do the right work is so difficult. How do you people deal with this?
For me, for the longest time, dad or the HR department would take the interviews and people would just kind of come on my lap.
Yes.
With time, I started being the one to take those
Yes.
interviews. And I remember I probably was more nervous than even the person giving the interview,
Yes.
taking that interview, right? Because you are taking a call and, you're negotiating that and you're judging someone's worth in a couple of interactions and minutes and understanding whether or not they fit into your team, your culture, and they're going to deliver what's needed. So that I think with time, you understand what works for you, what doesn't. Now, for instance, I've realized that, certain positions and roles and departments, I want people to do a little pre test of sorts and
Yes.
come, which is with a very clear brief. So I understand your way of thinking. If somebody has a good way of thinking, or you feel has a potential to grasp, you can mold them. However, do you want a manager you have to mold? Not at all. So that is something I think with experience you'll burn yourself a lot of times,
Yes.
but it's okay because it's no longer about who already exists in your organization, but it's the kind of people you want to be there for you. I think once people are coming into your organization, forget who's got them on board, right? Whether you've interviewed, your
Yes,
sister's
yes.
interviewed, or your team has. I think what's really important is how you induct them in. What you set as the tone for the first week of theirs in office, I think continues throughout.
Yes.
And how you set your expectations and things, I think that
Their
decides.
KRAs,
Yeah,
like they
that's
should know.
that's
Clear.
very important. So, what
Yeah.
are the expectations from both ends, and what do you expect from the person that if they've done this, then they're successful, or then they've done a great job, and at the same time, if they've not achieved so much, achieved X, then they really need to buck up and work towards achieving that. That's, I think, super important in really defining in the very first couple of days of induction that this is the kind of minimum benchmark or expectations from someone like you in your position.
Yes. You know, I would like to share one thing that, like in Amazon, I was reading Jeff Bezos' book, like on how his Amazon team actually has a veto power in every department. So even if the CEO appoints a particular person, they have a bench setter veto player. So basically, if that person, his role is to ensure that the person who's coming in is increasing the benchmark. So he has to be better than the previous one. So even if the CEO is saying, okay, I want Farhan here, but the veto person says that no, we don't. So the person will not be hired. So they've set such systems in their organization. Like even if the owner of the organization is saying that I want it, because we face such issues that there are so many references coming in that okay, she's looking for a job. So you need to have these benchmark checkers, because your people are your brand, your people are, we all are working for the common intention, and with every person that is joining the team, the value of your organization should go higher. So this is something that I wanted to share with
I
you.
know it's a very nice learning, and but this is what it comes down to, right? For those who are actually entrepreneurs, like I remember I read No Rules Rules, which was with about the whole Netflix culture and the Netflix team, right? And it all sounds very good on paper.
Yeah.
Then you think about putting it into practice,
Okay,
and
idhar
you're
nahi
all
hoga.
never the same. Not at
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
not
yeah.
at all. So you have to find what works for you in your environment and your position today.
So I want to transition into this innovation Della Adventures Training Academy. I didn't know there is something like this that exists. The feeling that you get. Pearl, do you want to give a sense to the audience listening to us today, like what data actually feels like?
So, Della Adventure Training Academy is a military themed experience center for families and corporates that was created mainly out of the desire and the love for patriotism that you kind of inherently have. We, see and get very excited on, 26th Jan and 15th August, and then all of this dies down. A lot of people are not always emotionally involved, they don't understand what's happening. But here you've got a place which is literally delightful. You are honoring and getting trained by ex Marcos commandos, people from the Indian Army, people who have been there for their entire life to just focus and take care of the country. And now you're in a space that's honoring all of this in a very luxury environment. So it's not your boot camp where it's all rugmarole. Like you correctly said, Della being Della, we had to have a certain brand perception that
Yes.
creates through. But where can you get a place where corporates and families come together and really enjoy
Yes.
this way and have a great time? You've got experiences all over India in palaces, in hotels, outside camping in the jungle. You've got your safaris, but you don't have anything focusing on military training and theme.
Absolutely.
And this is where data came in. It's supposed to make you feel like a proud Indian. That is the first and utmost objective. Second, feel leaving a little more confident, a little more aware as an individual, both mentally and physically, so that you are not a sitting duck ever in any adversity, big
Absolutely.
or small. And that is the whole idea. And last part of it is have a great time.
Yes.
You're in a gorgeous luxury themed resort in the middle of the jungle. It's an experience by itself, and that's
I
a
feel
little
it's a
bit about
perfect
data.
blend, because like people want luxury while they always also want to feel what a soldier feels. And I feel Data Resort does give you that 1% feel. I'd
Yeah.
say it 1%
Yeah.
because like there is so much
much
that like
more,
you can't
yeah,
take
yeah.
away from anything that
Yeah.
officers actually are doing.
Yeah.
But what actually made me believe in this wonderful idea was that how it had started data. Like I remember talking to the ex-colonel out there who said that after the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai, like there was a need that there is like self-defense. No one teaches you
Yeah.
self-defense. Like
Yeah.
if you're in that situation, it's a very
Yeah.
sensitive topic.
Yeah.
Like you are not taught this in school. Like if there is a terrorist that is coming to you, or if you were sitting in that hotel
No.
room, or is having dinner with your family in one of the restaurants, how do you escape from such a situation?
It is. So this the way the thing is that that's what dad realized. So there were two instances, right? One was 26/11 that really triggered him, and that being like the bigger one. The second one was actually a very relatively small thing, not small for the families and people who lost them, but small in the sense this is I'm talking about the fire in Kamla Mills.
Okay, at yes, at one of the restaurants.
Yes.
Yes.
And dad was like, one was a terrorist attack. Okay, this is not a situation anybody can even imagine in their wildest dreams. But for people and young kids our age, and then I remember
That's
like
true.
people who, lost their lives in
Yeah.
that, kids our age, people we knew of and things. He said where they didn't even have the sensibilities and the common knowledge to not just run away in different directions. Sometimes you have to run towards the fire and get out so you don't get caught in the smoke. You cannot go hiding in a bathroom when there is a fire and things. And all of that was very appalling for him.
Panic situation.
The panic, and
So in panic, you
he
either
was just-
fight or you fly.
Yeah.
So it's funny enough, most times people also freeze. So the entire idea behind data and specifically the training part of it is you can't teach someone to become a commando in 2 days, or when you're going to
Yeah.
ask someone to climb up a ladder
Yeah.
or climb across on a rope. But the idea is, doing it in a relatively safe, controlled environment, doing
Basic
it with the best
civilian
people
training.
teaching you. So God forbid if you're ever in that situation, you're not a liability on anyone, but you become an asset. You know that if I have to climb down this window or if I have to do anything, you can do it. Just that mental comfort of being there
Yeah.
once, or even, something happens and you have to jump. What's the right way to jump? What's the
Yes.
right way to fall?
Yeah.
And there are so many weddings happening at Della. It's like become the perfect wedding destination for Mumbaikars. So Natalia, like, how does having such so many different resorts complement the weddings? And uh, can you talk about the entire wedding portfolio that Della has?
Sure. So Della is the perfect wedding venue destination because it is so close between both the prominent cities of Bombay and Pune. In terms of our venues, we have 20 venues combined with our indoor banquets, the ballrooms. Each lawn gives you a very different kind of your dream backdrop that every bride would ideally want. Whether it's your mountains, whether it's your water body, for brides, it's very important that they get something which is truly unique, a venue that even though you've had several weddings there before, each wedding that happens is completely different. It's because we also do have a large inventory of 300 plus rooms. So it's a perfect destination to bring, your closest friends and family from all across parts of India.
No, so you all have 21 venues. So was it planned to make it a wedding destination of that sort?
It wasn't the initial idea, but once we started off with it, because we had the scope to keep growing, right? There's so many families that keep coming back to have different family members' weddings because they know that each time they come, there's a different experience added to it. Whether it's another resort or it's another venue. We keep expanding, and that is what, because of the hospitality we provide, we know what it takes to, make a wedding really successful and truly, truly special to the family.
And Devesh, also to get to the business side of it, since you always talk about the business
Yes.
mindset, right? You have to understand where the resort occupancy comes from and what, as a business, you have to do. Yes, you want to provide the experience, you want to provide a theme, you want to really kind of do it, but you have to also identify your sources of revenue coming in. The only way that throughout the year, even on a weekday in the middle of an off season,
Absolutely.
you're only going to get that through either a corporate event or a wedding. So you also, as a business, have to start understanding and putting your focus. So though initially it wasn't, towards the latter half of Della Resorts being operational, the focus was geared a lot towards catering to weddings. At that point, then you start making decisions accordingly. Then venues become important to you. What is your room occupancy ratios, the number of rooms, the way you've got your rooms and suites to accommodate families, to accommodate two separate weddings at a time. So all your business decisions also have to start aligning with your objective, and then
So
you fix it.
how many weddings do you all do in a year? Like
We do around 40 plus weddings a year.
so that's like a good number in the.
Natalia would know
You should-
better. I
She
have
handles
no-
all the
Yeah,
weddings.
touch
I
wood
have no
comparatively. We
involvement
are in a good
in
space.
weddings at Della
Um,
resorts. Yeah.
But it's never like we're too comfortable. We can accommodate a lot more. And yeah.
yeah.
So are you looking to actually expand your resort division and like maybe some Della resorts in some other location, because you'll have built such a beautiful brand and like the experience in Lonavala. So other people across India also want such experiences. So are you looking at expanding geographically?
So that's an interesting question. So the focus of the last couple of months has been towards establishing several Della townships across the country. So we have several theme-based townships that encompass second homes, that encompass hospitality and a particular theme, and of course the adventure park around that. So be it a global motorscape township, be it a global art, architecture, and fashion township, be it a global wine township. So these are the different townships that we're working on and to be announced very shortly in the coming year
Across India.
across India.
Fair point. So now we're coming to the end of our conversation, and like before we end it, like I've got few questions. So it's called which one. So which one of you, I'll ask those questions, and you have to point at the one like you
Okay.
feel
Let's go.
relates to
Sounds
the question
subject.
relates to. Okay.
Yeah.
So which one of you reaches first to office? Like
I
the
think
earliest.
it's a mix.
You have to
honestly.
point fast. You
No,
have to
it's
point.
different on different days.
What's the
Yeah,
point?
you all have to point.
Me.
I think it's different on different days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever's cycle is decided that,
Yeah.
oh,
Like
now
if some
I'm
whoever's
gonna
ended
finish
like
first.
the last night would probably.
Okay, so everyone point to themselves.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Or each other.
Yeah.
who is more open to feedback and criticism?
This game is not heading anywhere.
We're all equally good. We're all equally, bad.
Yeah, sorry. It's not a diplomatic answer. It's just true.
Who's daddy's favorite?
There's someone who's not present here, which is Stella,
Okay,
and that point would have
I'll
gone to
probably-
her.
In Stella's absence.
Yes.
I'll
Who's the
take it.
spendthrift?
Personally or professionally?
Personally.
How can that be?
Me again.
Who's the more creative one?
I think everyone's equally
different-
creative in
okay.
different aspects.
So art, design, Pearl, marketing was Natalia.
Innovation,
Farhan, yeah.
Yeah,
so
so
it's all,
each
we all
one,
have
both,
creativity
yeah.
within us.
Yeah.
And who gets best along with their team?
I think
We,
We all actually
we all have
like
different
our
dynamics.
we all have
Yeah.
different teams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
So I think
That's one thing I think very strongly common as a trait
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
us is we're all very passionate, very protective of our
our
teams.
teams.
We all are very, very.
So one last question before we end this podcast. If not Della, what would you be doing in terms of career?
I love this question.
It's not the first time this question has come to me, and it's not the first time I'm not, like asked myself either. I've always thought about it, and it's very different answers. I do not know what I would be doing, but I can't really pick on it. If I just could,
Like something in mind, obviously.
no, it keeps changing.
Right now it is.
Sometimes, right now, I really wish I pursued art.
Okay.
So maybe I'd be painting.
Okay. Farhan?
For me, it's also the best part about being at Della and working with Della is having the ability to impact human lives. So it's definitely about at the end how many human lives you've impacted. That's something. So emotional quotient for me is something really high. Empathy is super high for me. So definitely a place where I could impact the maximum number of lives I could.
And Natalia?
Mine would definitely be something with fashion. 100%.
Okay. So that is it, guys. It was fun chatting with you guys, and thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
On your podcast.
It
and we
was
wish you
fun.
all the luck.
You need to, guys. And I'm sure it was
it's
your
gonna go
first
well.
group podcast. No?
Yeah, the three of us
you all
together,
are-
yeah.
Or in one frame.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is my turn with Divyesh Doshi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good
Great.
job.
Back up. So that was it from today's conversation. And if you want to listen to more of such interesting conversations, please follow my page. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon. And guys, if you have any guest recommendations, please put it down in the comment section. That was it from my turn with Divyesh Doshi.